In this video, we're going to talk about the rotational form of momentum, which we call angular momentum. And remember, in linear momentum, in Unit 4, we started with impulse momentum as our core principle, our core equation. In this one, we're going to be talking about angular impulse and angular momentum. And so we'll talk about how that applies and how it relates. It's very similar to what we did in Unit 4. All right, so similar to linear momentum, we have in rotational form of impulse momentum. So we're on the last unit. We're on linear momentum, so now we got to go to the rotational form of that. Okay, and so the calculus form is the integral of t. This is going to give you the change in angular momentum. And that should be related to this one. F over time is giving you the change in linear momentum. And let's just define what was linear momentum. It was the mv. So angular momentum, the analogous form is instead of m, we use I. Instead of v, linear velocity, we use angular velocity, right? So this is the idea, is that if you want to cause, just like we did before in Unit 4, if you want to change the linear momentum of an object, you need a force over time. We call that an impulse. This is called an impulse, right? And an analogous thing over here, if you want to change the angular momentum of an object, you need to have a torque over time. We call this the angular impulse. So if you ever get a question that's asking whether or not the angular momentum is changing, it has to do with whether or not there's an angular impulse. Okay, so it's completely analogous. And in this lesson, we're just going to talk about how do we calculate this left part, this angular impulse part. Okay, so the torque is constant. You just simply multiply the torque times the time, right? Remember, just like in linear momentum, this is a vector quantity. So it has the same direction that the torque is going to have, okay? In physics C, if you have an expression for the torque, you may integrate it, okay? Either of those are going to be fine. And if you have a graph, torque over time, then the area is going to give you the angular impulse. So those are kind of the main ways you would calculate angular impulse directly. Is you have a constant torque over time, you have an expression of torque, you may integrate it, for those of you in physics C, and if you have it, and the area under the curve is going to be the angular impulse. Okay. So let's take a look at how do we calculate it for, that's a general calculated. Let's calculate the angular momentum portion for spinning objects. So hopefully you see that's the angular impulse. That's the left side of the equation. It's pretty straightforward. Angular momentum is a little bit trickier to calculate. Okay, the rotational form looks like L equals I omega. So when you have an object that's spinning or a system of objects, you simply do I times omega, right? So that's pretty straightforward. We've calculated I before. You know angular velocity. That's generally pretty easy to do. This thing has a rotational inertia I, then the angular momentum is simply I times omega. Okay. Now, technically, even if it's not spinning, there's other ways to calculate the angular momentum, and it gives you insight a little bit where this formula kind of comes from. But we'll get to that. Let's do an example here so you can see. Boulder of mass 20 kilograms, right? 20 kilograms. Radius is 0.2 meters. Rolls without slipping down a 15-meter high from rest. The rotational inertia is given by this. What is the angular momentum halfway down the hill? So we want to know the I omega at this point. Might as well just do conservation of energy, right, to go from their point to the point because it's rolling without slipping. So remember, our system is going to be the Earth plus this boulder. And remember, the work is going to be 0 because the frictional force doesn't do any work and the normal force and gravity are not going to do any work, right? So the initial energy, we would say if we make h equals 0 down here. Actually, well, we could make h equals 0 over here. Probably be a little bit easier. So then it's halfway down the hill. This is 7.5 meters. So it has gravitational potential energy, mgh, where that's 7.5 gh. Or mg. We'll cover in the masses here in a second. At the bottom down here, it has two forms of kinetic energy: linear translational kinetic energy, plus it's also spinning. And so we want to know the omega part. So I want to get rid of the v. We know, well, because it's rolling without slipping, v is equal to r omega. So the omega, we can make this 1/2 m r omega squared plus 1/2, and then this is 2/5 mr squared times omega squared. So you have omega squared in both terms. You have a 1/2 mr squared plus that will cancel a 1/5 mr squared. You get this is 7/10 mr squared. And by conservation of energy, that's going to be 7.5 mg. The m's cancel, and you can solve for omega by doing the square root of 7.5 times g times 10 over 7 divided by r squared, right? And so let's just plug in the numbers here. I'm going to use 10 for g, 7.5 times 10 divided by 7 divided by, what was the radius? The radius was 0.2 squared. And that gives me 51.8 radians per second. But what we want is the angular momentum, so that's I omega. So that's 2/5 mr squared times omega. So that's 2/5 times 20 times the radius squared times 51.8. So then 2/5 times 20 times 0.2 squared times that number there. Angular momentum is 16.6. And what are the units of this? This is kilogram meters squared. Wait, mr squared. And then omega is radians per second. So it's kilogram meter squared per second. I don't even remember it. There's not a special unit for it. How about the angular momentum at the bottom? Well, we just got to figure out the angular velocity. The only thing that's going to change for the angular velocity is you're going to go down to 15 meters, right? The initial energy will be 15 if you make h equals 0, and everything else will be the same. So it'd be square root of 15g times 10/7 divided by r squared. And then you're going to multiply that by I. So this would be, just to get the angular speed, it's 15 times 10 divided by 7 divided by 0.2 squared. Right, and that's going to be 2.93. Oh, wait. Oh, slight error on my calculator. I figured it out. 73.2 radians per second. And then multiply by the I that we had over here. So times 2/5 times 20 times 0.2 squared. That's going to give you 23.4 kilogram meter squared per second. Okay. What's causing the change in angular momentum? All right. So now we got to think conceptually. What caused the change in angular momentum is the angular impulse, right? So torque over an angular torque over time. What's causing the torque? Static frictional force, right? It's the static frictional force. We've done a lot of rolling down the, but that's the only thing, is the only force causing a torque, causing an angular impulse. Angular impulse is what's required to cause a change in angular momentum. All right. Okay. Let's kind of put it together, and let's do a problem when we are doing angular impulse in its entirety. I know this is a longer lesson, but let's go ahead and put it all together here. So a system consists of two small disks, masses m and 2m, attached to a rod of negligible mass of length 3L as shown. The rod is free to turn about the vertical axis through point P. The two disks at rest on a rough horizontal surface. The coefficient of friction is mu. At t equals 0, the rod has an initial counterclockwise angular velocity omega naught. So it has an omega naught this way. That gradually is brought to rest by friction. Develop expressions for the following quantities. The initial angular momentum around here. So for A, this is a spinning one. So the initial angular momentum is going to be I times omega. And so we just want to think about what the I is. We don't have the rod, like this 3L is negligible, so we just have these two objects for the I. It's going to be 2m times r squared, which is L squared, plus this guy m, he's located at 2L squared away. So we're doing mr squared, right, for the rotational inertia, times the angular velocity that is going right now here. This is 4 plus 2. It's going to be 6ml squared omega naught. So that's going to be the initial angular momentum of the system. B, the frictional torque acting on the axis through point P. So if we have our axes, we draw our free body diagram, we're going to have 2mg normal force, mg, normal force. Don't worry about any axis there because we're just care about the torques. Now, if it's spinning this way, the friction is going to kind of oppose it. I'm going to use a different color for it, but it's going to be kind of like this way. It's going to be opposing the motion as it's spinning around, parallel to the plane. But it's the only thing that's going to exert torque. The mg and the normal forces kind of cancel each other out. So, like, the only torque is going to be due to the force of friction. That's the only thing that's going to be stopping the spinning as it's going around. So the frictional torque, and that frictional force is kinetic friction. So the torque from this guy right here, this frictional force is distance L. So the torque is going to be force of friction L for the 2m plus force of friction from the m times 2L over here, because here the r vector is 2L for this force of friction, right? And this force of friction is going to be mu times the normal force. That's 2mg for this one, because here the normal force equals 2mg because there's no vertical acceleration. And then this is going to be mu mg for this guy over here times the 2L. So this is going to be 2mgl plus 2mgl is going to be 4 mu mgl. Now, this is a negative torque. Technically, I should put a minus sign on all of this. Why? Because it's slowing it down. It's going to cause an angular acceleration opposite direction, right? Like there. So that's the torque. That's the frictional torque there. Now, what about the time it comes to rest? So let's think about it as the angular impulse over time causes a change in the angular momentum. If we want to come to rest, the final angular momentum is going to be 0. Then your torque is minus 4 mu mgl times how much time it takes, t, is going to be 0. You're going to end with no angular momentum. You're going to start with 6ml squared omega naught. This is final angular momentum minus the initial angular momentum. Okay, so then the negative signs cancel. The m's cancel. One of the l's cancel. And then we can solve for t. T is going to be 6L omega naught divided by 4 mu g. And you can simplify the 6 and the 4. 3L omega naught over 2 mu g. Like that. If you found this video helpful, come check out our school community. It's got an amazing bunch of features. It's got extra videos, corrected videos, better than the ones that I have errors on YouTube. It's got multiple choice free response questions. I hold live Q&A sessions and go through more problems and I answer students' questions, help with schoolwork, all kinds of things. If you want to check it out, look in the description below or check out the website and find us in the school community. You get a 7-day free trial to give it a shot, just to check it out, see what it's like, come join some calls, and honestly, come learn AP Physics 1 even faster with us.